Commercial law partnership. So what is partnership? This is defined under Article 1767 of the Civil Code, and it says, by the contract of partnership, two or more persons bind themselves to contribute money, property, or industry to a common fund with the intention of dividing the profits among themselves. What are the essential attributes of a contract of partnership? First, it is an informal or consensual contract with a weak juridical personality. It is said to be having a weak juridical personality because it is dissolved. It is easily dissolved by a mere death the of a partner. Second, it is governed by mutual agency. It means that all the partners are agents of the partnership and may bind the partnership. Third, it follows delectus personae or selection of persons. It means that one selects his partners on the basis of their personal qualifications and qualities. And fourth, partners are burdened with unlimited liability, meaning the liability is pro rata with all their property after the partnership assets have been exhausted. So the rules in determining the existence of partnership is governed by Article 1767 of the Civil Code. So generally, when the intent of the partners is clear, such intent shall govern. When is that intent of the parties does not clearly appear, then the following rules apply. First, persons who are not partners to each other are not partners as to third persons, subject to the provisions on partnership by Estoppel. Co-ownership or co-possession does not of itself establish partnership, even when there is sharing of profits in the use of the property. Note that the co-ownership of inherited properties is automatically converted into an unregistered partnership the moment that said common properties and the income derived therefrom are used as a common fund with the intent to produce profits for the heirs in proportion to their respective shares in the inheritance as determined in the project partition. Third, sharing of gross returns that does not for itself establish partnership, even when the parties have joint or common interest in any property from which the returns are derived. Fourth, the receipt of a person of a share in the profits of a business is a prima facie evidence that he is a partner. The receipt of a person in the share of the profits of a business is a prima facie evidence that he is a partner. No such inference is drawn if the profits are received in payment as a debt by installment or otherwise, as wages of an employee or rent to a landlord, as an annuity of a widow or representative of a deceased partner, as interest on a loan, though the amount of payment varies with the profits of the business, as a consideration for the sale of goodwill of a business or other property by installment or otherwise. What is a separate juridical personality for partnership? The perfection and validity of a contract of partnership brings about the creation of a juridical person separate and distinct from the individuals comprising the partnership. Thus, Article 1768 of the Civil Code provides, the partnership has a juridical personality separate and distinct from that of each of the partners. It is this juridical personality that allows the partnership to enter into a business to fulfill its purpose. What is partnership by Estoppel? Estoppel means a bar which precludes a person from denying or asserting anything contrary to which has been established as the truth by his own deed or representation, either express or implied. A partner by Estoppel is a person who, by words spoken, written, or by conduct, represents himself as a partner, or consents to another representing him to anyone as a partner, in an existing partnership with one or more persons not actual partners. What is the liability of a partner in estoppel? First, if there is personal representation, a partner by estoppel is liable to any such person to whom such representation has been made, and who has, on the faith of such representation, given credit to the actual and apparent partnership. 2. In public representation. If he has made such representation, or consented to its being made in a public manner, whether representation has or has not been personally made, or communicated to such person so giving credit by or with his knowledge, when a partnership liability results, he is liable as though he were an actual member of the partnership. When no partnership liability results, then he is liable pro rata with other persons, if any, so consenting to the contract or representation. When there are no other persons, he is separately liable. The nature of its liability. A partner by estoppel is liable in the following manner. First, he is liable as though he were a partner when there is an existing partnership, all the partners consented, and the partnership liability results. He is liable jointly and pro rata as though he were a partner in fact with those who consented the representation when there is an existing partnership but not all the partners consented, and there is no existing partnership and all those represented as partners consented to the representation. He is liable separately when there is an existing partnership but none of the partners consented, and there is no existing partnership and not all those represented as partners consented to the representation. Note that Article 1825 of the Civil Code does not create partnership as between the alleged partners. Kinds of partnership. As to object, we have universal partnership of all present property, which is defined as that in which the partners contribute all the property which actually belongs to them to a common fund with the intention of dividing the same among themselves as well as the profits which they may acquire therewith. Next is the universal partnership of all profits. Universal partnership of all profits comprises all the partners may acquire by their industry or work during the existence of the partnership. Movable or unmovable property which each of the partners may possess at the time of the celebration of the contract shall continue to pertain exclusively to each, only the usufruct passing to the partnership. And third is particular partnership. A particular partnership has for its object determinate things, their use or fruits, or specific undertaking, or the exercise of a profession or vocation. As to liability, we have general and limited liability. It is general liability when all the partners are liable pro rata and subsidiarily, sometimes solitarily, with their own property or assets if the partnership is insolvent. And this may include industrial partners. Limited liability is only liable up to the extent of their contribution. As to duration, if the partnership is at will, there is no particular undertaking and it can be dissolved at any time. If it is with a fixed term, it may only be dissolved upon the end of its term unless continued by the partners. As to legality of existence, de jure, they complied with all the requirements to form a partnership, and de facto, if they failed to comply with all the requirements. As to representation to others, it is ordinary or real if it actually exists. It is ostensible or by estoppel if it exists only to partners. As to publicity, it is secret when some partners are not known to the public, and it is open or notorious when all the partners are known to the public. As to purpose, it is commercial or trading if it is related to business transactions, and it is professional or non-trading if it is an exercise of profession just like lawyers do. The obligations of a partner among themselves. This is governed by Article 1786, which stipulates every partner is a debtor of the partnership for whatever he may have promised to contribute thereto. He shall also be bound for warranty in case of eviction with regard to specific and determinate things which he may have contributed to the partnership, in the same cases and in the same manner as the vendor is bound with respect to the vendee. He shall also be liable for the fruits thereof from the time they should have been delivered without the need of any demand. Contribution of money or property. So one of the obligations of the partners is to contribute at the beginning of the partnership or at the stipulated time the money, property, or industry which he may undertook to contribute. It makes the partner ipso hure a debtor of the partnership even though there is an absence of demand. So the remedy is not rescission, but an action for specific performance with damages and interest. When the contribution is in goods, the amount thereof must be determined by proper appraisal of the value as prescribed in the contract of partnership, or in the absence thereof, the current prices at the time of the contribution. 2. In case of specific and determinate thing is to be contributed. First, the partner shall warrant against eviction in the same manner as a vendor, and 2. To deliver to the partnership the fruits of the property promised to be contributed from the time they should have been delivered without the need of demand. In case of sum of money is to be contributed, or in case he took any amount from the partnership coffers to indemnify the partner, he shall indemnify the partnership for the interest and the damages from the time he should have complied with his obligation or from the time he converted the amount to his own use. Another obligation in contribution of money and property is to preserve the property with the diligence of a good father of a family, pending delivery to the partnership. And lastly, to indemnify for any interest and damages caused by the retention of the property or by delay in its obligation to contribute sum of money. What is the amount of the contribution? So generally, partners are to contribute equal shares to the capital of the partnership. However, we have exceptions. First, when there is an agreement to the contrary, the contribution shall follow such agreement. Second, industrial partners, unless he has contributed capital pursuant to an agreement to that effect. And third, additional capital contribution. Any partner who refuses to contribute an additional share to the capital except an industrial partner to save the venture shall be obliged to sell his interest to other partners unless there is an agreement to the contrary. So what are the requisites in order to uh, compel a partner for an additional capital contribution? First, there is an imminent loss of the business of the partnership. And second, the majority of the capitalist partners are of the opinion that an additional contribution is a must. An industrial partner is obliged to contribute his industry at the stipulated time. Generally, a partner is authorized to manage who collects a demandable sum owed to him in his own name from a person who also owes the partnership a demandable sum is obliged to apply the sum collected to both credits pro rata even if he issued a receipt for his own credit only. Exception: in case the receipt was issued for the account of the partnership credit only, however, the sum shall be applied to the partnership credit alone. When the debtor declares that at the time of the making of the payment to which the debt the sum was be applied, if the personal credit of the partner is more onerous to him, it shall be so applied. Requisites for the applicability. First, there exist two debts, one where the collecting partner is a creditor and the other where the partnership is the creditor. Both debts are demandable and due, and the partner who collects is authorized to manage and actually manage the partnership. So he must account to the partnership. Next, obligation to compensate for damages. Every partner is responsible to the partnership for damages suffered by it through his fault. Generally, the liability for damages cannot be set off or compensated by profits or benefits which the partner may have earned for the partnership by his industry. That is because the partner has the obligation to secure the benefits for the partnership. As such, the requirement for compensation that the partner be both a creditor and a debtor of a partnership at the same time is not complied with. We have an exception when the court may equitably lessen the liability of the partner through his that if through his extraordinary efforts in other activities of the partnership, there was an unusual profits realized. Note, however, that there is still no compensation in this case. The partner is still liable for damages. So, next, obligation to account and act as a trustee. Every partner must account to the partnership for any benefit and hold as a trustee for it any profits derived by him without the consent of the other partners from any transaction connected with the formulation, conduct, or liquidation of the partnership or from any use by him of its property. Generally, the partner cannot use or apply exclusively to his own benefit partnership assets or results of the knowledge or information gained by him as a partner to the detriment of the partnership, except if the taking by the partner is with consent of all of the partners. Obligation to render true and full information. Partners shall render on demand true and full information of all the things affecting the partnership to any partner, to the legal representative of any deceased partner, to the legal representative or any partner under legal disability. And when we say information, sorry, and when we say information, it is meant that which can be used by the partnership can be used for partnership purposes. It is in the sense of a property which the partnership has a valuable right. Obligation not to engage in another business. This is applicable to industrial partners. So generally, an industrial partner cannot engage in business for himself. Should he do so, the capitalist partners as well as the industrial partners may either exclude him from the firm, avail themselves of the benefit which he may have obtained with the right to damages. Exception, he may engage in business for himself when the partnership expressly permits him to do so. So what is the remedy of the other partners? So the other partners may have the remedy of either excluding the erring partner from the firm or availing themselves of the benefits which he may have obtained. And actions for specific performance to compel that partner, that industrial partner, to perform the promised work is not available as a remedy because this will amount to involuntary servitude. For a capitalist partner, generally, the prohibition on engaging in another business extends only to any operation which is the same or of similar kind to the business which the partnership is engaged, except unless there is a stipulation to the contrary. So if the capitalist partner violates this prohibition, he shall bring to the common funds any profits accruing to him from his transactions and personally bear all the losses. The obligation to share in the profits or losses. So the partner shall be distributed in conformity with the profits shall be distributed in conformity with the agreement. If only the share in profits has been stipulated, the share in the losses shall be in the same proportion. In the absence of any stipulation, the share in the profits of the capitalist partners shall be in proportion to their contributions. The losses shall be borne by capitalist partners, also in proportion to their contributions. The share of industrial partners in the profits is that share as may be just and equitable. If he also contributed capital, then he shall receive a share of the profits in proportion to his contribution. The industrial partner who did not contribute capital is not liable for losses. Exclusion of a partner from share. Generally, a stipulation excluding one or more partners from any share in the profit or losses is void. However, a stipulation exempting an industrial partner from losses is valid, since if the partnership fails to realize profits, he can no longer withdraw his work or labor. But this does not exempt the industrial partner from liability insofar as third persons are concerned. So he may, however, recover what he has given to third persons from the other partners, for he is exempted by law from losses. So in case of losses, the third persons may file their claims to any of the partners, whether capital or industrial. However, industrial partners are exempt by law from losses, so their remedy is to reimburse what the creditor has got from him from the capitalist partners. So property rights of partners. So the partner has the following rights. First, the right to ownership of partnership property, the right to the interest in the partnership, and the right to participate in management. A partner is co-owner with his partners of the specific partnership property. So the incidents of co-ownership are such that 1. A partner, subject to the provisions of this title and to any agreement between the partners, has an equal right with his partners to possess specific partnership property for partnership purposes, but he has no right to possess such property for any other purpose without the consent of his partners. 2. A partner's right in specific partnership property is not assignable except in connection with the assignment of rights of all the partners in the same property. A partner's right in specific partnership property is not subject to attachment or execution, except on a claim against the partnership. When the partnership property is attached for a partnership debt, the partners or any of them or the representative of a deceased partner cannot claim any right under the homestead or exemption laws. And fourth, a partner's right in specific partnership property is not subject to legal support. Obligations of a partnership. The liability for partnership debts. The partnership is primarily liable for contracts entered into in the name and for its account, under its signature, and by a person authorized to act for it. Upon exhaustion of all assets, all partners are liable pro rata with all their property, and any partner may enter into a separate obligation to perform a partnership contract. Acts apparently for the carrying on of usual business. So generally, a partnership is liable for any act of a partner which is apparently for the carrying out on the usual business of the partnership, excluding the execution of any instrument in partnership name, except the partnership is not bound when the following concurs. The partner has in fact no authority to act, and the person whom he deals has knowledge of such fact that he has no authority, so the partnership will not be liable. Second, acts not apparently for carrying on of the usual business of the partnership. So generally, acts of a partner which are not apparently for carrying on the usual business do not bind the partnership, except the partnership is bound if the other partners authorized him to do so. So we have these acts of strict dominion in partnership. So generally, one or some of the partners have no authority to do the following acts of strict dominion, because it just means that all of the partners must consent. Okay. 1. Assigning the partnership property in trust for creditors or on the assignee's promise to pay the debts of the partnership. 2. Dispose the goodwill of the business or do any other act which makes it impossible to carry on the ordinary business of the partnership. They cannot confess a judgment, enter into a compromise concerning the partnership claim or liability, nor they can submit partnership claim or liability to arbitration, and they cannot renounce a claim of a partnership unless all of the partners have consented thereto, or the other partners have abandoned the business. Acts in contravention of a restriction. Any act of a partner in contravention of a restriction on authority does not bind the partnership to persons having knowledge of the restriction. The partnership is not liable to third persons having actual or presumptive knowledge of the restrictions, whether or not the acts are apparently for carrying on in the usual business of the partnership. The liability for admission by a partner. An admission or representation by any partner may be used as evidence against the partnership when 1. It concerns partnership affairs, and 2. Such affairs are within the scope of his authority. Instances where the knowledge of a partner is considered knowledge of the partnership. 1. The knowledge of a partner acting in the particular matter has acquired that knowledge while he was a partner and then present to his mind. 2. Knowledge of any other partner who reasonably could and should have communicated it to the acting partner. Okay. Liability for wrongful acts of a partner. The partnership is solidarily liable with the partner who causes loss or injury to any person, not a partner, or incurs any penalty through any wrongful act or omission, in the ordinary course of business of the partnership, or not in the ordinary course of business, but with the authority of his co-partners. The liability for misapplication of money or property. The partnership is, of course, liable for losses suffered by third persons whose money or property was received by a partner acting within the scope of his apparent authority, and then he misapplied it. Second, if it is received by the partnership in the course of its business and misapplied by any other partner while it is in the custody of the partnership. Now let's go to dissolution and winding up. This is the last topic in the 2025 bar syllabus. Okay, so what is dissolution? Dissolution is the change in the relation of the partners caused by any of the partners ceasing to be associated with the carrying on of the business. Winding up means the administration of the assets of the partnership for the purpose of terminating the business and discharging the obligations of the partnership. Termination is the point in time when all the partnership affairs are completely wound up and finally settled. It signifies the end of the partnership life. What are the causes of dissolution? First, it is divided into categories. The first category is those without violation of the agreement between the partners. So 1, by termination of the definite term or particular undertaking specified in the agreement. 2, by express will of any partner who must act in good faith when no definite term or particular undertaking is specified. 3, by express will of all the partners who have not assigned their interest or suffered them to be charged for their separate debts either before or after the termination of any specified term or particular undertaking. 4, by expulsion of any partner from the business bona fide in accordance with such power conferred by the agreement between the parties. 5th, if, after the expiration of the definite term or particular undertaking, the partners continue the partnership without making a new agreement, the firm becomes a partnership at will. And 6, any one of the partners may, at his sole pleasure, dictate the dissolution of the partnership at will. He must, however, act in good faith, not that the attendance of bad faith can prevent the dissolution of the partnership, but that it can result in liability for damages. The second category is in contravention of the agreement between the partners. Where circumstances do not permit dissolution under any other provision of the Civil Code, it may also be dissolved by the express will of any of the partners at any time. Thus, even if there is a specified term, one partner can cause its dissolution by expressly withdrawing, even before the expiration of the period, with or without justifiable cause. If the cause is not justified or no cause was given, the withdrawing partner is liable for damages, but in no case can he be compelled to remain in the firm. The third category is by operation of law. 1. By any event which makes it unlawful for the business of the partnership to be carried on or for the members to carry it on in partnership. 2. When a specific thing which a partner had promised to contribute perishes before delivery or by loss of the thing, only the use or enjoyment of which has been contributed. The loss of the specific thing, however, does not dissolve the corporation after its ownership has already been transferred to the partnership. Third, by death of the partner. Fourth, by insolvency of any of the partner of the partnership. We have to note here that the insolvency of the partner or the partnership must be adjudged by court. Now, 5. By civil interdiction of any partner. Civil interdiction deprives the offender during the time of his sentence of the right to manage his property and dispose of such a property by any act or any conveyance inter vivos. So if we do not have legal capacity to manage our own properties, then cannot be allowed to manage partnership property. The fourth category is by the decree of court. So a partner may apply for a dissolution in court when a partner has been declared insane in any judicial proceeding or is shown to be of unsound mind. A partner becomes in any other way incapable of performing his part of the partnership contract. Note that this incapacity must be lasting, from which the prospect of recovery is remote. Third, a partner has been guilty of such conduct as it tends to affect prejudicially the carrying on of the business of the partnership. Fourth, a partner willfully or persistently commits a breach of the partnership agreement or otherwise conducts himself in matters relating to the partnership business that it is not reasonably practicable to carry on the business in the partnership with him. Fifth, the business of the partnership can only be carried on at a loss, and six, other circumstances which render a dissolution equitable. The last category is other causes. So when there is a new partner is admitted into the existing partnership, any partner retires, when the other partner assigns their rights to the sole remaining partner, and when all the partners assign their rights in the partnership to third persons. So what is the effect of dissolution? So the authority of the partners upon dissolution is confined only to acts necessary to winding up and completing transactions that began but not yet finished. So the following partners have the right to wind up the partnership affairs. 1. Those designated in the agreement, those who have not wrongfully dissolved the partnership, or the legal representative of the last surviving partner who was not insolvent. Any partner or his legal representative or assignee may obtain winding up by court upon cause shown. So the manner of winding up may be extrajudicial by the partners themselves or judicial, which is under the control and direction of the proper court. The rights of a partners in case of a dissolution. So a dissolution without violation of agreement, then each partner may have the partnership property applied to the discharge of the partnership liabilities, the surplus applied in cash to the net amount owing to the respective partners. When there is contravention or with violation of the agreement, The partner who did not cause the dissolution may demand the right to have the partnership property applied to the discharge of its liabilities and the surplus applied to pay cash in the net amount owing to the respective partners. So it's just the same if there is a dissolution without contravention of the agreement for a partner who did not cause the dissolution. So he can also be indemnified for damages for breach of the agreement against a partner who caused the dissolution wrongfully. And he may also continue the business in the same name by themselves or jointly with others or during the agreed term for the partnership. When there is a violation of the agreement, the partner who caused the dissolution, if the business is not continued by the other partners, to have the partnership property applied to the discharge of its liabilities and to receive in cash his shares or surplus less damages caused by his wrongful dissolution. But if the business is continued, the right as against his co-partners and all claiming through them to have the value of his interest in the partnership at the time of the dissolution ascertained and paid to him in cash or payment secured by bond approved by the court, and he shall be released from all the existing liabilities of the partnership.